Hi class. I'm making a video for you about anti-rape activism. I'm going to go through a couple of slides and look at a reading briefly. In light of the recent Me Too movement and the Women's March and general culture of our times, I am highlighting the anti-rape activism and publications of the 1970s and 1980s. In your study, you'll find the important book about marital rape and abuse is called License to Rape: Sexual Abuse of Wives. It was first published in 1985, and we're reading through the introduction and chapter 5. You also have another important book called I Never Called It Rape: The Mist Report on Recognizing, Fighting, and Surviving Date and Acquaintance Rape, originally published in 1988. So these are two really important books from the 80s that bring up new ideas about rape and coercion and try to educate people about these ideas. In the 1970s, feminists took on rape. They generally framed it as an abuse of patriarchy and male entitlement based in sexism. Rape was not about sex or sexual frustration, it was about control and violence. In the 80s and 90s, acquaintance rape was defined and written about, and feminists popularized that women were most often raped by men they knew rather than deviant criminals. That was the old idea about rape, that women were attacked on the street randomly by crazy people, lunatics, criminals. But we know now a woman is most likely to get raped by someone she knows. Feminists began to define rape myths. Feminists also took on marital rape from the 70s on. They didn't want women to be considered property of the husband. Consent in marriage is not implied. Okay, so these are rape myths tend to blame the victim. Examples of rape myths were or are, and most of these are from the book I Never Called It Rape. If a woman kisses a man or does other sexual activities, they imply further consent of intercourse, basically. So that is a myth that the feminists wanted to make invalid. They don't want people to believe this is the case. If a woman dresses a certain way, it is her fault. If she is raped, that's, a myth of rape, that a woman is asking for it. If she acts a certain way or if she dresses a certain way. A woman saying no is just playing coy and really means yes. Women who don't fight back haven't been raped. These are all myths. I feel like I have to keep saying these are myths. Rape is committed by just crazed strangers. If a woman lets a man buy her dinner or pay for a movie, she owes him sex. I should have made this the next line. There was even a myth that a, quote, able-bodied woman could not be raped by one man. That was a myth, that a woman would be able to fight off a man, one man. If she really, was against it, she would be able to fight him off. And we all know that is a myth because sometimes women can't fight, or men, men get raped also. They're very shocked. Their bodies don't let them. They're too scared. They can't move. There's all different reasons other than just being overpowered by someone. There's all these psychological, physical reasons why someone can't fight someone off. So are these myths still relevant? I hope we're at a point in our society where we're getting away from these myths. I know some of them are still around, and it's important to really try to get rid of these myths and talk about consent and positive and active consent. Consent meaning just because you're kissing someone or doing other things, it's not a green light for intercourse. You know, you have to speak, you have to talk, you have to always be aware of your partner. You should never try to take advantage of your partner in any way. All right. So rape and marriage. There was a marital rape exemption in American law into the 1990s. The marital rape exemption was basically in the law in America and other countries, meaning that a man could not go to jail for raping his wife. Her consent is implied. But a man could go to jail for abusing it, for battery, for beating his wife, and other for cruelty. They could get divorced for cruelty towards a wife, but the actual rape was not something that a man could be charged with. But this started to change in the 70s. States were beginning to legislate against rape in marriage. Through the 70s to 2000s, marital rape became a crime in the US, and the idea you can't rape your wife finally became null. Although societal expectations of consent in marriage are still somewhat controversial. And, you know, that is something that still has controversy around it. So the book License to Rape goes into social and interpersonal coercion in relationships. And I think that's really important. That's what chapter 5 is about in that book. And you could read more about it. Social coercion is basically someone thinking that they have to have sex because of societal messages, because of social pressures. You know, this is what a girlfriend should do if their boyfriend is nice. This is what a girlfriend should do if her boyfriend buys her something nice. This is what a wife should do because their husband wants sex, even if the wife doesn't feel like it. This people think it's their duty. It's a role in marriage. You should not, you know, refuse sexual intercourse or other sexual activities. That's more the social interpretation. The interpersonal has to do with the relationship, not all about society's ideas, but more about the relationship itself, that the person is scared to say no to sex. They're scared what will happen, the consequences that could happen. Their partner might get mad. Their partner might withhold money. Just fearing the consequences that could occur from saying no to sexual relations. That's called interpersonal. There's guilt. You don't want to, your partner might make you feel guilty. So that's really interpersonal. It's not really a physical confrontation. That's another type of coercion called physical or threatened physical coercion. Interpersonal is really more psychological, and withholding money from someone is really a form of abuse. So it goes into that territory. Withholding resources from your partner is a form of abuse. So social and interpersonal coercion, there's various degrees of it. It could be very severe. And you can read more about this in the book, License to Rape. The authors don't really say coercion is the same as rape. They make a difference between those two. But it's kind of, it has to do with the level of extremity and the amount of abuse involved, I would say.